Welcome back to another episode of the GCN Tech Clinic, where I aim to help and solve your bike-related problems. So if you've got one, leave it for me down there in the comments section, and I'll do my very best to help answer it in an upcoming episode. With no further ado, let's crack on with the first question this week, and it comes in from Theo Hernandez. Their question is, can you use brake cable housing for a shifter cable? As Theo is all out of shifter housing and needs a little piece to go in between the rear derailleur and chainstay cable stop, about 6 inches. Would such a short length compress enough to make my 7-speed index shifting unreliable? Theo, do not do that, my friend. The reason being is that the outer cables are created differently in that a brake cable is made of a spiral bound bit of outer, which the inner cable then runs through, whereas a gear outer cable has its length done, well, in one long line, if you like. So it's made of many, many strands, and they can't compress. Whereas that spiral one on a brake can compress, giving you, well, a slight bit of modulation, I guess, if you lock up a brake, but it's not going to give you like an ABS style feel. But yeah, the purpose behind the gear cables being made in that way is that they don't compress, because your gear cables have to be really, really exact in their tensioning. So stick with some outer gear cable if you want to have perfect gear shifting. And next up is a question from Louis Sanchez. I was wondering if we will ever see budget power meters, ones you can simply glue onto your cranks or something of that sort for us peasants who don't want to drop hundreds on a new crank. Right, Louis, possibly. There have already been a couple of examples of this. The Watt Team Powerbeat and also the IQ Square. Their first product was a bit of equipment basically that went in between the pedal and also the crank. It kind of screwed into the thread and then you put the pedal in on there. Although, now I've looked on their websites, neither of them are currently shipping anymore. But keep your eyes peeled. This sort of thing does pop up on Kickstarter and Indiegogo, that sort of thing. But right now, there is nothing in production that I'm aware of. Next up is Zerjon23, who says they love the tech show, which is brilliant. Their problem is, though, recently their rear mech fell off and it got caught on the wheels and bent the derailleur hanger. Now, Zerjon says they tried to straighten the derailleur hanger and installed a new rear mech as well. The problem is, it seems that they can't index the rear mech properly anymore. Oh, Zerjon. Right then, that rear derailleur hanger alignment is absolutely crucial. Doing it by eye is really not good enough, which I reckon you've probably done there. What you are going to need is a derailleur hanger alignment tool. So when you fasten that on, you can actually line it up in a few different places on the back wheel to make sure it is in the correct place. So laterally adjusted as well as vertically adjusted. It's amazing what a few degrees out of place can actually make when it comes to your gear indexing. Along with that, I would get some new gear inner and outer cables too if you've put a new rear derailleur on, because it's amazing the difference to indexing performance that a new set of cables can make. Next up is Arthur S, who says, "Hi John, I'm using a Tiagra rear derailleur in my cyclocross bike, but when I go off-road, the chain flies everywhere on the rough terrain, hitting the frame and sometimes skipping on the cassette. I thought maybe changing derailleur for Dior with a clutch mech would help. Does this make any sense? And what's more, will it work together?" Right, Arthur. Firstly, Shimano road and mountain bike components don't really work that well together. The reason being, the amount of cable that's pulled by the shift lever isn't the same across road and mountain bike components. But there is a handy little solution for you here, and it comes from a brand called Wolf Tooth, and they make something called a tampan, which is a tiny little metal wheel which the cable can roll around and in turn can work absolutely perfect. Check out their website and make sure it's compatible with your levers. But yeah, all should be okay. Next up is Ben Carley Macaulay, who says they're thinking of going one by on their road bike as they rarely use the inner chainring and have had problems with front derailleurs. Apart from a narrow wide chainring, is there anything else that I would need to ensure the chain would be secure, whilst preferably keeping my current rear mech? All the best, Ben. Ben, nice question, and also good as well. You want to keep that rear mech on there because, well, you're going to save yourself a little bit of cash there. Now, I've done this on my own bike, or one of them at home, and with a good deal of success, actually. I've never lost a chain, but something you could consider on there is a chain guide or a chain catcher, that sort of thing, which could clamp onto your existing front mech braze-on, if that's what you've got on the frame. If not, actually a clamp-on one. And Wolf Tooth as well as K-Edge even make these solutions for you. Good luck, mate, and let me know how you get on with those bits of kit. Right, next up is Ollie Cook, who says, can I put a SRAM 11 speaker set on a 10-speed Shimano free hub? Ooh, yeah, you can, but not always. If it is a Shimano actual branded free hub, so on a Shimano wheel, very unlikely. In fact, I've never seen it done before unless you do some machining of a cassette on a lathe to remove some excess material and everything, and then you are able to do that. However, if you've got yourself a Shimano free hub on a Mavic wheel, then the chances are it will work absolutely fine, because I've seen all sorts go on them. They're one of the few companies out there who have a free hub which seems to be able to accommodate anything you throw its way. Next up is Jason M, who says, hi John, great show. Is there a minimum tyre clearance between tyres and fork on a disc brake bike? I've recently upgraded my wheels and tyres, going from 25 to 28 millimetres. The 28mm front tyre has 1.5 to 2mm gap all around. And Jason says they actually had to pull off all the little new tyre nubs as they could hear them hitting the fork. Jason, I would be a little bit concerned, to be honest. The reason being, if your wheel goes slightly out of true, there's a good chance it's going to start rubbing on the inside of the fork there. And that's not what you want, let's face it, because you're going to start wearing away the material. Personally, I'll go back to the 25s. It sounds to me like it's probably an older generation disc brake road bike, because it can't accommodate 28s. Most of the modern ones or recent editions tend to be able to do that. This reminds me of the old time trial bikes back in the 80s and early 90s, where the clearances used to be so tight that if you picked up a little bit of gravel on your tyre, it would actually start rubbing on the frame and it would cause quite horrible gouges on the paintwork. And in actual fact, I just got one of these. This is a bit of fag paper, and we used to call that fag paper clearances, because they used to say that it was so tight you could just about put one of these through there. Yeah, you don't want that on your bike, not in my opinion. And the final question this week comes in from Phil Weatherly, who says, hi John, here's a question. I've made a bike light. Right, okay, 6 watt LED at the front, 1 watt at the back. Cables between them, it works well. Currently using Twin Flex, supply and return. What do you think about using the frame as the return, so I only have 1 conductor to each light? It's only 1 amp at the front and 350 milliamps at the back, so I thought to use copper tape, suitably insulated, stuck where you can't see it on the frame, so removing festoons of visible cable. Your thoughts, sir? Phil, what an electrifying question there, my friend. I really don't know how to answer this one, because I'm not an electrician. I have just done a rewire, but I'm not a qualified electrician. What I would certainly not suggest is doing this if you're unsure, really, and you've asked me, and I just don't like the idea of sending an electrical signal through a frame. I know there's not a massive amperage or watts or anything like that actually going through the frame, but you are going to be wanting to send an electrical signal through the frame that you're riding on. Err on the safe side of caution. You've got one heart. Don't risk giving it a shock, please, my friend. I know that someone out there will be able to answer this question comprehensively in the comments down below, so look out for that one, but my personal thought would be, please don't do it. Right, I hope I've been able to help answer or solve your problem this week. Let me know down there in the comments section if you've got a question, and I'll do my very best to help answer it in an upcoming episode. And now, don't forget to like and share this video with your friend, and also, why not check out the GCN shop at shop.globalcyclingnetwork.com. And for 2 more cracking videos, how about clicking just down here and just down here.